What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. Today I have an exciting deck profile video, but this time it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have a guest on the video itself. So this is Shiga on Discord, but in real life his name is Anthony Tolbert. You want to say hi and a few things?
Hey everyone, how's everybody doing? He caught me at a really rough time getting off work, but we finna do this.
and Shiga in a way has been on the channel. Did you want to talk about like your prior deck profile that I covered for you 4 months ago?
Oh yeah, some months ago I provided Jamie with the tetra-drive order deck with Gather Upon Me, Ye Wandering Souls. The deck has changed since what I posted it as, but that's still a work in progress.
That's awesome, and thanks again for sharing that too. It got a lot of people like curious about it too, because I don't know, sometimes like, you know, Thavas is part of Aqua, but it's nice to see a different variant in the premium format. And I appreciate you for even mentioning and working on Valeos, which we'll cover today, which is Valeos, Blue Wave specifically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to transition to screen sharing to show the deck log. So now we're into the deck log. Shiga actually wants to start from the zeros and going up, so go ahead and take it away.
All right, so first things first, when building this deck, it was actually presented to me by a friend who really likes Valeos, and because I haven't had a chance to experiment, I said, you know what, let me come back to this man and see what I can really do with him to really get this deck to turn up. So it's taken a long time and it's still a work in progress, but right now I think I've got it in a place where it can do some pretty solid damage. So first things first, I started off for the trigger lineup, we went with 6 crits, 3 draw, 4 heals, and the over trigger, and 2 fronts.
Anything you want to explain with like the two front triggers, because it's pretty unique, where most Aquaforce builds mainly play the crits.
Yes, in this particular build, as you go through some of your attack patterns, you'll notice that you'll have at least 2 to 3 front row standing rear guards. So this just gives me something to offset some power. So just in case, to give a little extra oomph in some of these attack patterns.
So like, for example, you have multiple standing units in the front row, correct?
Yes, I would have at least 2 to 3.
Gotcha. And I think what would help the viewers a little bit too is explain what Valeos even does too. So maybe we
not a problem. So let's go up and let's highlight Valeos.
Yep.
So Valeos is skill. So the first skill is actually the main skill that we should learn. Pay attention to, because for a cost of Counterblast, Soul Blast, you can choose one of your opponent's vanguards, and to the end of the turn, it gets minus 5,000 power, and if the opponent's vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it cannot increase or decrease power except by Valeos' effect or their Guardian Shield. This is the main part of the deck, and let's also highlight that Valeos doesn't have a gift. That is one of the biggest challenges of the deck, is to mitigate how to get your aggression without the access to an Excel gift. And what I have put together is roughly the strongest point that I can get to, but I'd say it's still pretty solid. So this is the Vanguard that you want to be on at any given time. This is the skill that you want to be utilizing, and as we go through the deck, we'll see cards that can benefit off of Valeos and cards that help move the deck along.
Yeah.
The other 2 skills are, you discard a card with the same name as the Vanguard, so you discard Valeos. You can choose up to 5 cards from your drop zone and call them back to rear guard circle. So a small grand blue playstyle to kind of help you get back some pieces. And almost forgot to mention that you do lose the gift. So in a sense, it's good he didn't get it, because he just take his own gift away.
True.
And then lastly, his last skill, at the end of the battle that this unit attacks, choose 2 of your rear guards and you may exchange their position. Now, in the chance that you are able to get an Excel gift in this deck, which you will, you can actually attack with a unit that's on the Excel gift, choose a different standing unit, and exchange their positions, which actually is a really nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to clarify for the viewers too, so it's like, how do you even get an Excel circle if this guy doesn't have one? Is that he does play other grade 3s that have Excel. So for
Yes,
example,
it,
George, if he needs to ride it, he can get the Excel circle. So regardless of which grade 3 he rides, there's a potential that he still can get an Excel circle right off the back, and then later on he can ride Valeos to do the skill, right?
yes, sir. And just in case we don't ride George, we do have a stride that lets us get an Excel gift, which we'll get into later.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I almost forgot. Awesome. So now that everybody has the gist of Valeos and you're recovering the triggers, is there more that you want to talk about the triggers, or should we move to some other key pieces?
No, a lot of the triggers are pretty self-explanatory. You got
Okay.
crits for crit pressure. You got the drop PGs to just say no to people. You got heal guards to say even a bigger no to people,
Yeah, so you
and
can
G
survive.
guarding, and blessing favor.
Yeah.
It's every trigger in this deck. Realistically, if you count everything as the blessed favor as a +1, you realistically can count this as 4 draw, 7 crit, 5 heal, 3 front.
Right, that's true. That's what's really nice about it.
So for this deck, the great ones, we run 2 Battle Siren Dulcia, 3 Blue Wave Soldier Senior Baragios, 3 Narissa, and 2 Nikolos. So the Narissas and the Baragios are kind of self-explanatory.
Okay.
You use the Baragios for checking top 5 for your grade 3. Ideally, you want to search Valeos or George. Either one of them work. And Narissa, so self-explanatory. You shove her into Soul, draw an extra card at the end of the turn. It helps you keep some hand advantage going. And she's just an overall pretty good card. Now, the 2 that are oddballs for this one are Battle Siren Dulcia and Nicholas. Dulcia has a unique skill where if she's on the rear guard, if your Vanguard's current power is different from its original, she can attack from the back row. If anybody remember G era, we remember Battle Siren Stacia.
Yep.
And we love Stacia.
Yep.
So she kind of acts as a rear guard that can attack from the back. She can just get some pokes in, swing at the Vanguard, and there's a stride later on that she works really well with, and it's kind of funny if it works when it works this way. It'll catch people off guard. And the first skill is when she's placed on when she's placed on Vanguard, you discard a card from your hand and draw a card. In one way, if you went second, you get rid of the
ticket.
Quick Shield.
Yep.
Yeah, the Quick Shield. And if not, you can start setting up your drop zone for Valeos. If you look at it like you're setting up your drop zone for Valeos later, it works itself out. Like say if you ride to grade 3 first and you say, oh, I've got a Coral Assault. Excuse me, spoilers. You got some stuff in the drop zone that you want to get back, you can just grab those cards back, which I've spoiled one, so I won't get right into it just yet, but it is self-explanatory. But he is right there, so Coral Assault, which is the same self-explanatory as Narissa.
Yep.
Yeah, big beefy boy does his job.
Awesome. And I think,
the other
go ahead. No, I was
and
just
the
gonna say
other
Dulcia is gonna come up later with the strides too. Like
Dulcia's gonna come up later again. And then the other great one is Nikolos. Nikolos is check top 7 for 4 Marine General Restless Tides Algos. The new Algos that we got, which we'll might as well explain right now since it's right here, is very, very, very good godsend. So Algos' skill is when an Aqua Force unit rides him, you check top 7, search for a Tier Dragon or Aqua Force unit, and call it to the rear guard and shuffle the deck. In the simplest words, it's a top 7 search for anything.
Yeah, I know. It's so good in premium when it gets written on.
Yeah, it's top 7 search for anything. And the Nicholas is just here to help us search him out, get him to hand back, get him to our hand a little faster. And if we don't get him, it's not the end of the world, because we still ride Coral Assault, which is fine. We can ride the other grade 2 that I run, which is Blue Wave Marine General. Wait, what is that?
Materia?
But no, Quiteria is still a really good card because she actually helps give Dulcia a little extra power. So if the opponent does get decreased by Valeos, she's now, if you add Quiteria to the mix, Dulcia will start swinging for 13k, which will demand at least 10k shield. Yeah, we've got 15k shields, but hey, she hits just a little bit harder.
Yeah, it's asking for more shield. Yep.
And my favorite MVP of the deck, the oldie but goodie, Storm Rider Basil. Oh yeah, love this man.
This one's really old. Maybe you want to slow down for these people.
I've been playing Vanguard since that long.
BT08. I think this is the Blue Storm Armada side, right?
Yep, Blue Storm Armada set.
Where Maelstrom originally came out. Wow.
I've been playing since technically tetra-drive around that time, which was BT13. Actually, tell you the truth, it was Ripple, but that's another story.
Gotcha. So with Basil, it looks like you want to read what he does?
Yes. So Storm Rider Basil, when this unit attacks the Vanguard, if you have an Aqua Force Vanguard, and it's the first battle of the turn, this unit gets plus 2,000 power, making him effectively a 10k attacker till the end of that battle. And at the beginning of the close step of the battle, basically at the end of the battle, choose another Aqua Force Rearguard in the same column as this unit and exchange their positions with him. So if we look back to Valeos' skill, Valeos will do the same thing, which will change 2 Rearguards. And if you look, and Basil will do it at the first battle on his own. So what this will effectively do, it gets you multiple attacks within the battle, and it makes up for the fact that Valeos doesn't have the gift. So you basically, for example, we can attack with Basil first, exchange with, say, Coral Assault, and then attack with Coral Assault later, and he'll be a nice 24k beefy boy. There's also some other interesting facts about Basil that are very old. One thing to note is that Basil has a self-protection, where since he's exchanging with the unit behind it, he protects himself from players that just want to attack into it to prevent our multi-attacks from happening.
I gotcha.
Yep. So, like, really the only clans that can touch him, to my knowledge, are Narukami and Kagero. There might be a few others out there, but those are the big ones that can tag him.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot of other weird plays that I'll get in that and go into maybe later once we finish the deck up, and I'll go into some. Yeah, definitely. Go into some things that can work in Battles of Saber.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of highlight too a little more about Basil. So this is a really old card, so you may have seen like an Aqua Force Vanguard or the Close Step. It's a lot of old wording because you can use to mix clans. So if you played a Spike Brothers Vanguard, for example, then Basil's skill would technically not work. So that's why they added this clause to make sure that it was specific to Aqua Force. And the Close Step is like what Shiga was saying. It's basically the end of the battle. A lot of old cards, for whatever reason, talked about Close Step of that battle, but now the verbiage is just end the battle at this point. And what's really cool with Valeos is because you reduce them to basically 8k at a maximum. Basil still gets a little bit of power, but he's going to hit regardless. And for those players that are interested in maybe like trying out a column swapper, if you don't have access to Basil, you could always use some of the newer column swappers. But they may cost like a counterblast, like Couple Dagger, for example. But it's just whatever you have available. So it kind of serves the same function. But Basil's free. And I think that's really big.
Out of all the column swappers that we got, Basil is free.
Yeah.
The classic, the initial 3 Storm Riders that we mostly use, Basil, Eugene, Diamantes, that triple set, all free. But it's the first battle. But
right, exactly. And I know you kind of step away from the grade 1s, but you're playing the orders, or did you want to highlight that at the end?
Oh yeah, I'll highlight that later.
Okay.
But we do have one more grade 3 to get into, and that is this random pretty beauty, Benevolent Maiden Erisif. I had to make sure I can read this. So what she does is she helps facilitate multiple things. One of the things she can do is, well, her skill is when she's placed on rearguard from hand, you pay the cost, and your Vanguard is grade 3. Yeah, Vanguard is grade 3.
Yep.
You can pay the cost of Counterblast, Soul Blast, mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and choose a card from your drop zone. If it is grade 2 or less, you can call it to the rear guard. And if it's the same name as your Vanguard, you can add that card to your hand. What this means for the last skill, if you have a Valeos in the drop and you want to use Valeos' revive skill, what you can do, you can call Aerosith, pay her cost, grab the Valeos back, pitch the Valeos, and call an entire board back for just counter. So essentially, where it was normally a discard, it became Counterblast 1 in a discard, but it's because you didn't have it. But, whoo, love her. She has been working out very beautifully. And because she discards, she mills 3 cards, she sets up the drop zone to just make that even better. So maybe you got some, maybe just say you didn't get any rear guards and you're like, oh crap, I really need some rear guards. You can just, you can use her skill, get some units in the drop, and then call a full board. She's also really useful on a stride turn, which we'll get into later.
Okay, sounds good.
And if you need a second use of Narissa, Coral Assault, there are options too.
All right, because she can grab those pieces. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Want to touch on George? I know we kind of highlighted about the Excel circle, but we never really covered the effect.
All right. We didn't. So the first effect, he has the same effect as Valeos when he's on Vanguard Circle. You Counterblast, Soul Blast, and you choose your opponent's Vanguard. They get minus 5,000 power. The only difference is he doesn't freeze the power, but it's okay. That's fine. Doesn't hinder anything. It actually still turns on the deck. So in some instances, if you do this, one of the things I like to do is try to force out some heal guards early, which when it comes to my turn and my stride turns, they may not have anything to G guard with.
Oh, good point.
And so Basil's a really good return on investment for that. And the skill that makes him that gives him a good pair is when he's on the rear guard and you attack with him, you choose a rear guard in the back row and you stand it. This pairs beautifully with Battle Siren Dulcia.
Yep.
You can attack with her, attack with him, stand her up, fling with her again. So in that essence, you don't lose the restanding rear guard aspect that you would get from, say, Terrific Coil, Tidal Assault. Pretty sure there's like a bajillion others. New Gallius, New Foivos,
right?
Like even old Foivos. You still have the aspect of restanding rear guards. It's just done differently.
Yeah, and it's free too.
Absolutely free. With a lot of stuff that costs in Counterblast and Soul Blast, for every free skill we get, godsend.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Awesome. Thanks for covering that. So we have the order still, like the Blitz order and the Resentment order.
Yeah. Yes, the Blitz order, Elementaria Sanctum, just PG.
Okay.
They strike, you PG from just one card. In this deck, sometimes you may not draw cards, but may not have a lot of cards in hand, but this kind of helps mitigate that to keep as much hand as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the Resentment order, you pay a Soul Blast, check the top 3, you choose one, put it in the drop. You have to choose one to put it in the drop.
Yeah, that's the errata. Yeah.
And you put a card you can choose a card from the drop, call it your rear guard. This serves the same purpose as Aerosith, as you can get another rear guard to the drop zone. If for whatever reason your Dulcia got removed, you can just bring her back. You got another use of Coral Assault. You have a lot of different things to go about. And if you want to keep your Excel circle when you're on Valeos doing his thing, this lets you keep that Excel marker.
That's very true. Because like the other thing that Valeos is doing is you can Soul Blast, and the grade 2 or the grade 1 that you may road with can also be a viable target for like these types of cards. Awesome. So I guess we can go to the strides since we kind of keep shying away from it.
Yeah, I keep bringing it up because it's coming.
I know, right?
And it's
the teaser.
Yep. So let's get into actually one of the key strides of the deck, which is Blue Charge. Oh, make sure I say this man's name right because it is deserving. It is Blue Furious Charge Dragon, Furiargus Dragon. If you have to be on Valeos, it is not the end of the world. You can absolutely stride into this first and get your Excel marker if you're not comfortable playing without the Excel marker.
Right.
You have a means to get it. And and the rest of the skill is that you would choose one of your rear guards, you stand it, you generate the Excel gift, you can move any rear guard to that Excel circle, and it gets an additional 10k power. So no matter what, if you think for a second, like, oh my God, I'm not going to be on an Excel circle. Nope, you got it. Always have access to it.
Absolutely. And I think that's important to point out because typically in Aqua Force, 9 times out of 10, we're going to go into Gembold. But to get the maximum value from Gembold, you need 6 rear guards, which you can only have when you have an Excel circle. So in this case, it would just make sense to first stride Furiargus Dragon.
Yeah. Yes, it would absolutely make sense.
Yep. And then obviously it can scale with the face-up cards in the G-Zone too, which is really nice.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm assuming that's why you play 2, just in case you go into 2 in a game?
Yes, there's a chance that could possibly go into 2.
Makes sense.
Usually 1 is enough, and the rest of the deck just functions. And then we still have good old Gembold here. If we ride George first, we could still go into our typical Gembold plays. Make sure we got our 6 rear guards at rest, and pop card stand cards. And one of the plays where Basil comes very handily here. If you pair Basil with Baragios, if you call 2 rested rear guards and you swing with Basil first, boosted with the Baragios, you have a nice fat 23k swing on the rip. Excuse me, off the rip.
Oh, that actually makes 23. You're right.
Yeah, and if you let's say you do the Gembold skill, you search that 7, call 2 at rest, and then you can have a column of Basil and Baragios. That's an automatic 23k swing off the rip. And then Basil.
Go ahead.
Basil switches with Baragios, and you still got the full Gembold turn. And now they're going, wait, why are you 23?
Why are you 23?
Exactly. Why are you 23?
Yeah, and then Baragios can be a target for Jumbo to restand as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Baragios can definitely be a target.
Love it. Nice.
And kind of some of the strides that are, and then we still have Alexandros here. If all else fails, Alexandros is still a fantastic stride to go into, do Alexandros things, make things big.
Yep.
Now the other 2 strides that we have, I'm still picking and choosing what's going on here. But so far we've got Blue Wave Marshall Tetra-Boil Dragon. The reason I didn't go with Flood Hazard is because there are not enough Blue Wave units to proc Flood Hazard.
Oh, consistent.
This is more generic.
Yeah.
Where you can just swing 4 battles, use Tetra-Boil, restand, get 4 drive checks, and you're fine.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to get it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to get that. And then another oldie but goodie for the time being, Storm Dominator Commander Thavas.
Nice.
You flip a copy of himself, choose a unit in the back, it gets 5k, and he can swing from the back row. Worst come to worst, you can give it to Dosia and turn her on, and she can swing regardless.
True. So that way you can get multiple attacks, though, without an Excel circle.
Yep. That way you never... The deck is basically, I've done everything to mitigate everything that you've lost and you still have access to because you don't have that Excel gift. But if you're able to get it and you can just get it, boom.
Yeah, this could also be like a damage denial play. If for whatever reason they don't give you counterblasts, this can be your first stride if you don't have any counterblasts. Yeah, makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. Although there are other strides that I'm looking at, and I'll explain those later. But the big boy stride, hold on, before we get into the big boy stride, we're going to go over the G guard. Dayanara, good. Dayanara's a good card. First battle, give your Vanguard 5k extra power, help soften a blow during on the defense, or give 20k power, 20k shield, which is great and amazing, saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
many times. Galphilia, our flip fodder most of the time.
True.
Ice Barrier Dragon, a nice 25k shield. And our big girl, Ian Ionis. 9 times out of 10, we're not going to really get anything to happen with resist, but maximum 25k shield is a lifesaver. And now for the big boy himself. Let me make sure I say this man's name right. Torrent of Determination Valeos Revive.
Mm-hmm.
As much as this card is a little wonkier and not as good as Jimbo, here's the value.
Mm-hmm.
One, you can always potentially draw one more card than Jimbo. And if you got enough units face up in the G zone, you lock your opponent's Vanguard's power to 11k.
Yep.
And one of the biggest complaints that I've been getting this season of the format is people don't like getting triggered, and they definitely don't like getting over triggered. Valeos, both Valeoses, no matter what, tells them no. You don't get this. You're eating everything I throw at you.
I think that's another pro about this deck. So if people are tired of like losing to over triggers, this deck has options to say, no, right? Exactly.
Absolutely. It says absolutely not. And then here's the fun part. Dulcia says that she can attack from back row if the opponent's Vanguard's power is different.
Yep.
Most Vanguards today are 13 and 12k bodies. With this card lowering them to 11, this immediately turns her on.
Yep. You can even call her from hand, so they may not even expect that extra attack, right?
Absolutely. You can keep her in hand, you call her with Valeos, and now they're like, oh crap, I have one more attack to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And then another card to use during the Valeos revive turn is actually Eraserys. If you got the counterblast, you got the soul, you call her out from Valeos' skill, you can actually check top. You can check top 3 and go through her whole process. She can either give you extra multi attacks for that turn if you absolutely need it, or she can put a Valeos, like I said, she can put a Valeos in your hand. It's just a nice surprise to just keep up that aggression, keep on the pressure, and because they're not getting triggered, you're just wailing on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a question about Eraserys. I've seen people play the grade 2 Alania that similarly works. Is the benefit of Aerosmith is because she can discard to one of the cards you see in the top 3? Is that one of the reasons that you picked her?
Yeah, one of the reasons is that you can pick one. You can pick any of the top 3. You can pick whatever's in the drop zone. You can pick up a Valeos if you absolutely need it. If you want to set up
you could add the Valeos to your hand, right?
Yep.
Okay,
you can set up for a stride the next turn, or if you happen to be on George when you did this, you can pick up the George, so you're able to stride next turn. You never run out of stride.
That's true.
In one place, you could say you never run out of stride farting. You've always got it.
Right. Even though she's a grade 3, you can still call her as a body and then get it potentially back anyway. I gotcha. Okay. Yep. Awesome. Anything you want to highlight with Valeos Revive still?
Some of the funnier, cheekier things that I've done on Valeos Revive is have some Georges available. And typically, if I'm able to get the Dulcia on the board, I'll pass all the triggers to Dulcia, and with at least 2 Georges, you get at least 2 Dulcia swings. So the cheeky thing I do is pass all triggers that I possibly can to Dulcia, and just start wailing on them with a Dulcia from the back row that 9 times out of 10 they can't touch.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually.
And it's even funnier when the over trigger happens.
That's nasty.
If it happens. It is nasty. You have a 100 million critical grade 1 swinging at you.
Wow, that's really good. Because like the other thing is that they're 12k and they're at 11k now, so Georges are still gonna hit as well, regardless of which circle they're on. And then it's free.
So no matter what you are putting on the pressure.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so there are ways I've tested this deck prior to. You can use inlet pulse dragons if you feel you need more draw power. Another solid choice is actually Saberflow Sailor, because if you can get Saberflow Sailor off, you're actually going to be, you can sack her off if she's the 4th battle at GB1 to draw 2 cards. It's not really a detriment. And if anybody says that this deck can't draw as much as Thavas, I highly disagree with you. It absolutely can. And then other cards that can possibly run if you build it that way is actually the old G-era Gallius.
Yep.
That boy swings 3 times on a Vanguard that is stuck at 8K, 7K. They are just stuck there. And it's at least 2 9K swings and a 11K swing. And if you happen to put him on an Excel circle, that turns to 14 and 16, double 14s with 16, or 19, 21. Yeah, that's roughly the long and short of Valeos. Like I said, the biggest challenge is just learning to play around not having the gift. And if you're able to overcome that challenge, this deck will surprise people left and right, not knowing what the heck's going on. And another stride I was actually interested in trying is another old stride, Wailing Thavas. Seeing is, so just in case, you got a gem bowl, but your deck is running low and you don't want to keep drawing a bunch of cards, you could just go into Wailing Thavas, swing at least 3 to 4 times, kill off a board. And if you happen and want to do this, you could pay the counterblast and tell them no great ones. I wish it stopped the blitz order, but that is what it is.
That's true. Yeah, it's just another option. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just another option to do.
Thanks again, Shiga, for taking the time to explain this unique deck profile too. I know that most players are just kind of used to Thavas, so it's kind of great to see a different flavor of Aquaforce with a little bit of different aesthetic to it. And I think this is something that people can play for fun, and if they want to tweak it to maybe their current meta game at their local game or maybe at a regional, kudos to them. They have basically a good starting template to work with at that point too.
Absolutely. And something else that I forgot to mention, if somebody chooses to play the ride down game with you, you can absolutely just wreck their face, because you tell them, I'm gonna ride down back to grade 2. Oh really? Thank you for turning off your heal guardians for me.
Yeah.
Take these 9 attacks to the face. All right. Well, I didn't explain that. Maybe later.
But you do have an avenue when it comes to those types of decks too, because they're gonna give you counterblast as well, so you might as well use it. Awesome. Yep. Thanks again. Anything you want to say, or any shout outs, or that's it for today?
Definitely shout out to our friend Duke Vanguard. He gave me a lot of the ideas that are in the deck right now, and he's helped me push it along. And obviously, I still have you to thank, because you're always here, and and amigos for life, bro.
I appreciate you. Amigos for life, exactly. Thanks again for hopping on the channel. It's always a pleasure to show off some of these decks that you guys are brewing up in the lab. So people can get a chance to try it out for themselves too. So without further ado, thanks again, amigos. Until the next one.